This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Is your cold making it hard for you to get to sleep and leading to a bad morning? Switch to Mucinex Night Shift for fast, powerful nighttime multi-symptom cold and flu relief. Mucinex Night Shift fights your worst nighttime symptoms to help you get to sleep and wake up ready to go. Mucinex Night Shift. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
All right. Welcome back.
Fit Nation.
Fit Nation, Alexis Haselberger, stress management, coaching and consulting professional. And she's going to teach us how to live a stress-free life today. How are you, Alexis?
I am great. And I think that, I'm not going to teach you how to live a stress-free life, but we could definitely reduce it. We got to be realistic here.
Right. We'll all have stressors in our lives at some point. There's always something that tweaks us during the day. So how did you get into this profession?
Yeah, so I focus on, time management, productivity, and stress reduction. And I actually spent the first 15 years or so of my career in incredibly stressful environments. So I worked in early stage startups here in the Silicon Valley and Bay Area. And I worked with people who were working around the clock, always stressed, trying to build something out of nothing. There was always way more to do than people to do it. And so I just develop systems and strategies for how to get everything done, but also have a full life at the end of the day and not be working those crazy hours.
Oh, exactly. I bet that's not just in the Silicon Valley too. It's across this country and now most of the world, as everyone's trying new things after coming out of last year.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. We all come from our own specific area, and we tend to be myopic about that a little bit. But I think you're right. I think people are trying to do a lot and maybe too much everywhere, and that causes a lot of stress.
Yes, I think a lot of people, once the doors opened, just recently for some states, some states have been open, but once those doors open, people just went running wild to try to do everything they missed within the time they were behind the doors, and they're trying to do that all at once and burning themselves out. So what's some tips you can give people that are starting businesses as they come out of these things and want to get things done, but like you said, they're trying to get everything done at once? What can they do to not do that?
Yeah. So I think the first thing, especially for entrepreneurs, people who are starting businesses, and I know there are so many people starting businesses right now, I think one of the most important things you can do is realize that you are not going to do it all. Actually, it's not possible. We're all going to die someday with a big long list of things we didn't do, and that's just totally okay. That's part of it. And the goal is not to do all of it and all at once, because that's unrealistic, impossible, and makes us feel terrible, and leads to burnout. But that we can prioritize what we're doing in such a way that we know every day that the things that we did were more important than the things we didn't do. And I think to do that, the first thing we have to do is literally get everything out of our heads that we have to do, think we have to do, might have to do, and get it all into one place so that we can really think about priorities, so that we can focus on one thing at a time, because that's all our brains can do. We may think we can multitask, but we're lying to ourselves if we think that.
Yes, I like to think I'm a multitasker, as I started this project as a podcaster while also in the middle of a PhD and working a full-time job. So I had about eight hours left a week. So I figured, let me throw this in there. And now I'm multitasking in 3 directions.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think that's fine. It's fine to have a lot of projects and a lot of things going on. I think it's where people experience a lot of stress is with, if you, with your PhD, your full-time job, and your podcast, we're trying to do kind of all of that within the same 20 minutes, right? You're kind of jumping back from thing to thing to thing. I think that's when it gets really stressful. So, I think it's okay to have a lot of projects as long as you have enough downtime that you need. But that kind of in the moment multitasking where we're working on something and then our mind says, oh, we need to go send an email about this other thing. And then we jump over to another tab. I think that's the stuff that really wears us down.
So what are some tips that you give your clients or the thousands of people that you've helped here to reach their successful life and a reduction in their stress and be able to do the things they want to do? What are some of the tips and tricks that you gave them to get over that hump and start living that way?
Yeah. So one of the very first things that I do with all my clients is to do a little time tracking, and anyone can do this on their own. And it's really just for a week or maybe 2, track everything you're doing from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep, so that you can actually see the real data of what is going on. I find that time is subjective. And so, when we're doing something that's fun, feels like time's flying. And when we're doing something that is less than fun, feels like, things are going pretty slowly. And so we don't have a really accurate perception of how much time we really have and what it's going towards. I find that often, my clients, I remember working with a high-level tech executive from a big company I will not name, who realized when he did this that he was spending like 4 hours a day on YouTube and Reddit in like 5-minute chunks. And he just had no idea. He thought that he was, that he was probably spending a half an hour, maybe an hour, but he had no idea it was 4 hours. And so you can start to see that there are some really immediate gains. You can ask yourself, what do I want to be doing more of? What do I want to be doing less of? When am I stressed throughout the week? And then you can try to create specific solutions for each of those things, right? So for him in this case, he was able to gain it back 4 hours a day by simply like blocking himself from Reddit and YouTube during the workday. Right?
That's definitely a lot of YouTube during the day right there.
Yeah.
I guess he had a lot of interesting videos to watch.
Yeah. And so, I think like that awareness is that first step. If you've ever read or heard of the management guru, Peter Drucker, he always said, what gets measured gets managed. And I think this is really true, of our time and our stress. So taking stock of what we have is always the first step. Then I have everyone build a kind of task system, a task management system, something that they can use to offload everything from their brain, because it's really stressful to use your memory for all the things you have to do. And so that's the next step that I work with clients on, to make sure that they have kind of a single source of truth for all the things that they need to do, so that the stuff, with your PhD and your full-time job and this podcast, that you can look at any given day and say like, okay, here's what I need to do across all my projects to move things forward today, without having to look at the full list of 500 items every single day.
Right. Now I like the time tracking thing. I think that's something many people that listen to this will do. So they're all used to lists and stuff. Many of my listeners are veterans, so they're used to having a structured life, and then they got out of the military and people weren't telling them what to do. They had to figure out what to do. So they took on a lot more things as they go forward. And I think if they start tracking what they're actually doing, they'll notice that they have a lot of, I like to say, dead space, or spaces that they're just wasting time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really valuable point you bring up. And, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it from a, military or ex-military perspective, but, that happens a lot in my world too, where I'll work with people who maybe they've gone from being the founder or CEO of a tech company, and now they're moving into a role where they're more of like a VC and they're kind of working on investments. And, what we'll see is that when you're in the thick of it, when you are, the CEO of a small company, you show up every day and your workload is made for you, right? You're just fighting the fire of the day. It's kind of pre-structured. And then you may move into a more strategic role, or maybe as your company grows, you move into a more strategic role. And all of a sudden you have all this time that you're not quite sure what to do with, even though you have maybe more things even to do. And so that is really, really difficult for people to kind of create that structure. And so that's another thing that I help people with is, okay, so you have 4 hours today where there's nothing accounted for. How do we do some time blocking? How do we look at the things you want to do and figure out a plan for when you're actually going to do them so that you don't show up every day and have what I call, letting the day happen to you, where, you start the day with the best of intentions, you got a big list, you get into your email, and then all of a sudden it's like 6 p.m. and you've been working all day, but you've basically been in reactive mode and you didn't get anything crossed off your to-do list.
Exactly. I like on your website, stop constantly worrying that you have forgotten to do something or are behind on something because you chose not to do them. And I think that a lot of people do that procrastinating thing. Oh, I can get that. I can get that later. I can watch this video now. Oh, I won't watch one more video. I'll just keep watching them all day. Next thing they know, it's closing time and it's time to go home.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a big part of it, right, is that humans, we love instant gratification, right? And so like there's a lot of just internal pressure from us. Like, of course I want to watch this video. Like that's why autoplay is so dangerous at all these things. And so I always think that, when we're starting to figure out how do we want to reduce our stress, how do we want to use our time more wisely, one of the best things that we can do is to prioritize our future self. Right? Because if you're sitting there like watching that video thinking, oh, I've got time tomorrow, if you flip it and say, well, how will I feel tomorrow if I do this thing today? Right? You're going to feel way better tomorrow if you've already done the thing than realizing you've got 5 things you procrastinated on and now you've got to pull an all-nighter to get them done.
Exactly. And for a while in my educational career, I would do that, and I'd push things off till the day of, or I'll write this 20-page paper today.
Right.
That just adds a lot of extra stress to your body, mind, soul to get that 20-page paper done. And then you hope you did it right after you turn it in.
Right. And it really kind of decreases the flexibility that you have available to you, right? Because if we're pushing things to the last minute all the time, now you're in a situation where, you know what, you got 8 hours and 20 pages to write, and like you can't do anything else during that period of time. If something else comes up, you can't do it. And so I think that lack of flexibility and that lack of agency that procrastination sometimes introduces is stressful as well.
Definitely. So how many years have you been doing this alone?
So I started this business about 3.5 years ago. So I've been doing it full time since then. But I feel like, like a lot of things in retrospect, it's really to see the path. And so I think I've been nerding out about all of this stuff and experimenting in my own life and helping people at the companies that I worked for in a more informal capacity for, at least, over a decade, maybe even more than that. But yeah, doing it alone by myself for about 3.5 years.
And the 32,000 people you have taught, or over 32,000 by now, since the website probably was updated not recently, but are those from the whole time or just those 3 years? If it says 3 years, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, so a lot of that is from my online courses. And so over the past, I think my online courses have been available for the last 2 years, and I'm broaching about 45,000 people now that I've taught through those courses. And then I also work with individuals and companies. So I've worked with hundreds of people within those 3 years individually as well. But most of those, that 45,000 at this point is really coming from my online courses.
That's still an amazing number for just that short block period of time. As we're talking about time management, that's a lot of people in a short window to take these lessons and move forward. How many have reached back to you and thanked you?
That is one of my favorite things about what I do is that, I get connection requests on LinkedIn all the time from people who have taken my courses and just want to thank me or who are reaching out. I think, like before I started this business, I think I don't know if anyone ever said to me, like, you've changed my life, right? Since I have started this business, like I can't even count the number of people who've reached out and said something similar to like, this work that we've done together has really changed my life for the better. And so that is exactly why I get up every day and do this, because it is so gratifying to hear from people and to help people and to know that, what you're putting out into the world is really making a meaningful difference for people.
And that's definitely a great feeling once you get that reach back and they say that to you and you know that your product's actually working. So that's even a selling point to the next person. Well, I help person X and they're very happy now and they're doing this. You can be that person too.
Yeah, exactly. To be able to have that kind of, that proof that what you're doing, it's working, it's helping, people are, better off for it. Sometimes somebody had reached out to me on LinkedIn the other day and said that, I think I said, "Oh, congrats on your promotion." And he said, "Oh, well, I wouldn't be in this position and be able to do this if it weren't for the course that I took with you." Right. And that kind of stuff, you're just like, wow, so great. This online course stuff is amazing because you're able to make an impact with people all over the world in ways that you're not even aware of sometimes.
So I know results vary between people, between groups of people. How long does the average person take to get results from the lessons you teach them?
So when I work with individuals, I usually have a 4-month coaching engagement with people. Now, people can get, immediate results in a couple of weeks with just a couple of techniques. That doesn't mean they're like, that they're good and they don't need anything else, right? And so I think about this as long-term habit building. And what the science tells us is that we build habits somewhere between 3 weeks and 9 months to build a habit. The average is around 2.5 months. And so I think, when I'm working with clients individually, that's a bigger window that I have into it, right? To see exactly how the progress is. And I think that, people definitely fall into that 2 to 3 months. They're getting significant gains after really implementing strategies and building habits around these things. Some habits take longer to build. If we're trying to change the way you've handled email for the last 25 years, like that's going to take a little longer than other types of habits, right? And so, I think it really depends on each individual. Some people take, somebody took my online course, wrote back to me a week later and was like, "This has completely changed everything. My inbox is at 0. I'm not stressed about it." And, that was a very short period of time. So it depends. But I think we got to be realistic with our expectations of ourselves. And I think that anytime we're building habits, we should expect it to take a few months at least.
Definitely. I agree there. I know 21 days is what they say. It helps to break one habit and start a new habit. Like if you do a weight loss journey or trying to run or even trying to do something new. And that's why usually you break the old habit, start a new habit. Have you had people that have gone from individual one-on-one coaching to your online course or vice versa?
I really think that there are different populations who are interested in these different things, and they're at very different price points. So I don't have a ton of people bouncing back between them. I have had a few people who have taken my online course and then become individual clients because they wanted more support or they wanted to go deeper. I don't think I've had anyone I've done coaching with who then took my online course because they're getting all that. They're getting all of that and more in the one-on-one or the group coaching with me. But yeah, sometimes you see someone go from an online course where they're kind of dipping their toe in the water to saying, "Oh, this is good, but I want some more support here."
So they want more of the individual face-to-face or virtual link between you and them to talk to you and say, "Hey, I think I did this right," or "I think I did this wrong. What do you think about my approach now?"
Yeah, exactly. And also, people have really varying degrees of the outside accountability that they need. Some people, these people, they're like, they say they're going to do something and they just start doing it. And we're all kind of envious of them. And maybe we're a little jealous too. And then there are also people who they just know themselves and they know that what they need to move forward with things is to have that external accountability. And so, coaching and having someone there to kind of both cheerlead and to be able to provide accountability for you can be really important because, when you're kind of moving towards a journey of self-improvement or self-development, you've still got a full other life going on, right? And so it can be hard to prioritize the work of self-improvement if you're a person that needs a lot of external accountability, in the face of everything else that's going on for you.
Of course, yes. And of course, I think in some of these cases, the employer will probably reimburse for the employee going to these classes as a way of making their company more productive. And hopefully they don't lose that employee once they make them a more productive person to someone else.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of my clients are definitely able to get reimbursement for the work that we do together, because you're exactly right. I mean, not only does it make them more productive in both work and life, but also they then learn all of these things that they're able to teach to other people that they work with. And so I've seen a lot of that where, I have a client who, he's a marketing executive, and we work together individually. And I just see all the things that he's kind of pushing out towards his team to help them to be able to up level and to de-stress. And so you kind of see those, the butterfly effect going out into the world. And I think that makes, that makes everything better.
Oh, I bet it does. When you were doing a team training, was that basically over the phone, or before the pandemic, did you go to their offices, or was that all via phone or teleconference?
Yeah. Or like in a pre-pandemic world, I did both virtual and in-person workshops for companies. And so, a lot of them were, local to me. Or sometimes I would, travel across the country, deliver 3 workshops in 24 hours, fly back home. Those days are sort of gone right now, but they're probably coming back. And since the pandemic, I've switched everything to virtual. And so all of the workshops and corporate trainings I've been doing have been over Zoom. So they're, live video with lots of interaction and different activities and breakout rooms. And, I think we've all found ways to make things, not exactly the same as they were, but different in a good way.
Right. And continue operations, even though there was a big hiccup in the world. So everyone being able to pivot, and like you did, you pivoted and went to the virtual world and made sure you were still delivering a world-class product to all your clients and future clients. A lot of people also, like the schools, all went to the Zoom world to try to keep kids engaged. I mean, it's a little harder with the youth because their minds go a million different directions anyway. It's harder when it's even harder when they're in front of you. Never mind when they're behind a screen. But
right.
Being able to continue delivering was probably an awesome thing for you and awesome for your portfolio, because people see that and they're like, oh, she's someone I want to work with because she's not going to quit even when things go crazy. Yeah,
that's a really good point. And also it's just, I always think about silver linings, right? And so this pandemic period, it's been horrible in so many ways for so many people, and, myself included in lots of ways. But also, I'm able to help more people in different areas that might not have reached out to me before, right? If you're a company in Ohio or Iowa, I mean, maybe you wouldn't have reached out to me in a pre-pandemic world because you would have just figured, I'm far away. Like, do I travel? All of these things. Whereas, now it's so easy. It doesn't matter where you are, right? You can still deliver that product to them no matter where.
Right. And you can put push pins on your map in your office of all the states that you've virtually been to. You make them blue for virtual and red for actually being there, or whatever colors you like. That way
I love that.
You know which one you actually have to visit in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's like the push pin map I have in my kids' room for the place they've visited, but doing that for business. I hadn't thought of doing that for my business, but now I'm going to.
Oh, I gave you a tip. That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you met a entrepreneur, say at some workshop, and they seemed like they were frazzled, what's the top 3 things you would tell them to do to get going and get out of their own way?
The first thing I would tell them is, like, right now, let's sit down and do a brain dump of all the things that are going through your mind right now, because it's really hard to focus on anything at all when you've got 50 other things just racing through your mind. So that's where I would start. The second thing that I would do is tell them, let's get a handle on your communications, because I think that is an area where people are really stressed out. They have inboxes of thousands of unread emails, and we've got Microsoft Teams, and we've got Slack, and we've got email, and we've got WhatsApp, and we have all these different channels. And so, I have a strategy that I'm happy to share here and with your audience about how do we handle those internal and external communications that I call the one-touch rule, which is just, instead of opening up an email, reading it, then deciding we're going to answer it later and either marking that as unread or just leaving it there and doing that all day long until we finally decide we have to answer these things. Instead, we just want to recognize that any incoming message or any incoming piece of paper, or any incoming item, there's only three things you can ever do. And one of them is to just archive it because it didn't require a response. The second is to answer it right away because you have the answer. And then the third is where we get into trouble, and it's that you can't deal with it right away because it's too big, right? It's a task or it's a project that someone's asking you to do, or maybe it requires approval from someone, or you need to socialize it, or you need to do research. And for those things, we want to put them on our task system, right? Because now they're work that just needs to be prioritized with all of the other work. And then the last thing I would tell them is make sure you're getting enough sleep. So if you are not getting at least 7 hours of sleep, set a bedtime alarm and really work on getting more sleep, because sleep is one of the very best things we can do for both productivity and our mental wellness.
Well, I agree. A thing I've learned to do since getting out of the military, when I didn't have to have my phone next to me all the time, waiting for something to happen to someone I was leading, or being told I had to go somewhere, is getting off the phone. Turn off your screen at a decent time so your eyes aren't burning as you get ready to go into the bedroom, and then your head's just in a constant world of what's going on because you just did all this stuff with the blue light for so long. So that's one thing I do to make myself fall asleep easier.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good habit. And even just, turning it off, putting it in another room. Our phones are they're amazing in so many ways, but they're also incredibly distracting. And so, also I would say to that, turn off all the notifications. We don't need to know when somebody has sent us an email. We can schedule email time throughout the day, still get back to people in a very timely way without getting a little ding or ping every single time somebody is reaching out to us.
Yeah, every time someone has a brilliant idea and sends you a joke in the email, you don't need to answer.
Right. There's this sense of immediacy we've all become so accustomed to. It's really detrimental to our productivity and our stress. I mean, there was a study that came out of UC Irvine several years ago that showed that not only are we interrupted, every 11 minutes, but I think it's way more than that now, but that when we are interrupted or distracted, even when we're doing it to ourselves, like when we're, working on a report and then we just decide to go check our email, that it takes us on average 23 minutes to recover from that distraction and to refocus on what we were doing. And so when we do that, and when that happens to us, most people spend about a third of their workday, that dead time or that wasted time that you're talking about, just recovering. So if we can work to turn off the notifications, to limit those distractions, we can actually it's almost like making time.
Yeah. I guarantee it is, because if I'm on my computer typing a paper and I see the email notification come on my computer and I see the name, it's let me check that real quick, and all of a sudden I'm reading every email.
Right.
Then about an hour later I'm back on my paper and I forget what I was writing about. So then I have to go back to my sources and say, what did I do?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's frustrating. It feels it's another thing of that instant gratification versus that kind of delayed gratification. It's hard.
Right. And that's just something I guess we all have to adjust as we go. If I knew how to turn off the notifications on his computer, I would, but I think it's linked through not just my computer, but through my daughter's iPhone. So it messes up my computer as well.
You've got to Google that and take care of it.
Google will have the answer. It has the answer for everything.
It's true. That's always the first step if you don't know how to do something.
That's what I find in my YouTube videos, how to fix things in my house. So
yeah, me too.
So Alexis, how does someone get in contact with you? What's the best way to get in contact with you to get a free consultation with you and find out what you can do for them?
Yeah, the very best way to get in touch with me is just to go to my website, which is alexishaselberger.com. And I hope you'll put that in the show notes because no one can spell my last name. And from there, you can sign up for a free consultation if you think you might like to work with me one-on-one. There's also, there you can sign up for my weekly newsletter where I send out actionable tips around productivity and stress reduction every single week for free. And then I'm also on social media. So on Instagram, I'm at do.more.stress.less. And on Facebook, I'm at do more stress less.
Awesome. And I'll definitely put that in the show notes. I'll try to put all of them in there. If not, I'll tell them it's all at the bottom of your webpage as well. That way they can just click on all those links. So I believe they're all right at the bottom. Yeah, they are. Let's connect. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube are down there. So I think very easy to find you. And I did a Google search, and there's like 17 things to find you on there as well, right in a row. And the first one was the website, so that's a good thing.
Awesome. And I'll send you a link that you can put in the show notes for your audience, just a free download of a distraction action plan. So if you're not really sure how to reduce some of those distractions that are going on in your life, this will be a step-by-step walk you through it. And they can just grab that for free with the link I'll send you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexis. And thank you for taking the time to come on today.
Yeah. Thanks so much. It was a great conversation.
You know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on Fit Nation. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. If you want to, please become a supporter to help us carry this thing on. We appreciate you. If you know someone that brings that energy, has a great story, is an up-and-comer in any industry of music, in the arts, have them reach out to us on themisfitnation.com. We will get back to them within one day and get them on here so they can share their story with the world. As always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Fit Nation.